Righto guys, we're going to have a look at our Srs Systems, which is our supplementary restraint systems on the vehicle. Going to use the old Outlander once again. This one is a little bit outdated because it's getting a little bit old, but the system is basically, this one's got a airbag in the steering wheel, and that couples up with your seat belts, which has got a pre-tensioner down here in the retractor. It's got a gas operated pre-tensioner, so when you're in an accident the airbag deploys, woof, and the pre-tensioner down here's got a little gas canister on it that deploys as well, and it actually pulls the seatbelt in and makes it tighter. Now these are all designed to work with your headrests and your seats. The whole system is designed. Later model cars will have what they call curtain airbags, which is curtain airbags normally in the pillar. Okay, that's to protect the side of your head. They'll deploy and protect the side of your head. This one here has got a passenger airbag on the passenger side. Some cars will have a sensor in the seat pad so that the airbag system knows that there's somebody sitting in there. This one does not. BMWs and things like that do. They have a pad. If you take that off, there's a pad in there. Really late model cars, smart cars will actually, it'll work on the weight of the person. So if there's a little kid sitting in there, it's not going to deploy the airbag and break their neck. These type of airbags, these ones here that just go off by themselves, it's all written in Japanese there, but you can actually turn them off if need be. If you've got a kid sitting in there, you can turn the airbag off, so it's safe for everybody. And yeah, so if your airbag operate off your sensors, your steering wheel, your frontal airbags, they've got sensors in the front bumper normally. Side airbags, or side airbags that sometimes in your doors on later model cars, and in your pillars, they will have sensors normally in what they call a B pillar. This is the B pillar here, this is the A pillar. So your bag might be in there, but your sensor's going to be in there. So if a car comes and smacks on the side of here, that airbag's going to deploy, and also this airbag in here is going to deploy. Alright, so only the sensors that go off will deploy the various airbags. They're not all going to go off at once. If you get hit from the side, probably only the side ones are going to go off. If you have a frontal impact, like have a head-on crash, only that one's going to go off, and these ones probably won't. Alright, so we'll right, the system also does a self-check, which is on your dash. Every time you start the car, the little airbag light will come on, that follow there, and it will do a check, and when it determines everything's okay, that light will go off. If there's a fault in the system, that light will stay on. And you'll need a scan tool, again down to your little OBD2 plug down there. Plug your scanner in and get a fault code and see what's going on with the system. Some earlier model ones will actually blink. That airbag light will blink, and it'll blink a code. It'll just blink a little code, and you can go and look up that code and see what's wrong with your system. Not all cars do that, but some of them do. Alright, supplemental restraint system, SRS, that's what we call it, our SRS system. Right, now they run two systems. The first is your primary system. This consists of physical things like your bumpers, your body panels. This is your first line of defense if you're in a crash, right? Seat belts, crumple zones, that's where your car's designed to fold up in certain places when it's hit from certain angles to preserve the cab that you're sitting in. Things like that. Collapsible steering column is the other one. Your steering columns are collapsible, they're telescopic, so when you're in a crash, instead of that steering wheel impaling you on the chest, it telescopes in like a telescope and keeps you safe. So these are all your primary functions of your safety system. Okay, so your passive or your secondary system, needs to be activated to work, right? So it's only for severe accidents. So if you bump the corner of the house as you're going to the garage, your airbag's not going to explode in your face, all right? It's designed to work only in a severe situation, right? And that includes your SRS airbags and your seatbelt pre-tensioners, all right? that is your secondary system. Right, so we're going to start with the airbag. Just tripping over my chainsaw. Start with the airbag. They're made of nylon. They're powered up by nitrogen gas. Nitrogen gas is what actually makes them explode. And the older ones were lubricated with corn flour. I don't know if you've ever seen one that's gone off in a wrecker's yard, but yeah, there's flour everywhere once they go off. Right, so they're triggered electrically or mechanically. Some older ones were mechanical. So what happens is you get a signal from your sensor on a electric one. It'll go to your SRS control unit. We talked about this before, you know, all the control units all talking to each other on the CAN bus. So it'll go to the control unit, and then that will electrically trigger the squib. Airbag will deploy. These mechanical ones just work on an inertia, and just the sheer force of going into a crash will actually move a little firing pin, and a firing pin will go into the back of the little gas explosion thing, and boof, and your airbag will deploy. Now they deploy really quickly, 300ths of a second, so that's 0.03 of a second to actually deploy an airbag, which is pretty quick. So in regards to deployment, you've got three things on the back of your airbag that make it go off, and that's your squib, your igniter, and your gas generator. Like I said, they fed an electrical signal on most late model ones, and when the time is right, when the sensor tells it we're in a crash, and boom, up goes the airbag. So you probably want to Google a little picture of what a squib looks like. Yeah, right on the back of the airbag, normally just a little square box, and it's got all that stuff in it. If you Google a little picture of it, see what it looks like, might make a bit more sense to you. Right, just a quick word on the sensors. So if, again, like what I was just saying outside, if you say this is your car, right, that's your wheels. It's a great looking car, isn't it? Okay, this is the front. So you're sitting in your driver's seat, you've got an airbag here. So you can have sensors up in the front bumper for that. You've got an airbag here for the passenger, you can have sensors up there for that. Side airbags and curtain airbags all down here, so you can have sensors in the sill or in those pillars. B-pillar normally, which is a pillar behind the driver's seat, that pillar. So you'd have sensors there and airbags in those doors and that A-pillar. A-pillar is the first pillar, like where your windshield is. Okay. And like I said earlier on, some cars will actually have a there's your steering wheel. Some cars will have a sensor here in the passenger seat so that the system knows there's somebody sitting there. Right? They know there's somebody sitting in the driver's seat because the car wouldn't be going unless there was somebody sitting in the driver's seat. So that's a given. But the system doesn't know if anybody's sitting in this seat unless there's a sensor there to tell them there is somebody. Right? Some late model systems, like I was saying before, they can vary on the weight, so the sensor can actually tell how heavy or how big the person is. So it can actually alter the force of that airbag coming out, and actually the size of how much airbag comes out. So if there's a little guy sitting in there, or a lightweight woman or something, you're not going to put a big fat airbag out and snap their neck off, you know. That's also why the headrests are so important. Because when that airbag comes out, it's not a big fluffy cushion, it's actually really hard, and it's made to stop you. So unless you got that headrest for your head to go back on, you can actually do damage to yourself. So that's a basic setup with your airbags deploying. Yep. Right, seatbelt pretensioners. So the idea behind these guys is to actually, when you're in a crash, the airbag goes off, you've got your seatbelt on, your seatbelt comes forward, and then the pretensioner, there's another little gas canister in there, another little explosion, and that actually pulls your seatbelt in harder. So your seatbelt will have a bit of give, and then it will pull you back in your seat, so your headrest will get in behind your head, and then the bag will come up in your face. Right, so that's what your pretensioner does. So that's located on your retractor, which is the piece that you can't see in behind the B-pillar there. So that's the piece that you pull your seatbelt in. That's the bit that the seatbelt goes back into. That's your retractor. Okay, so that's bolted to your B-pillar, and your seatbelt comes out of that, goes up, and then goes around you as you're sitting in your seat down here, and then clicks into your little anchor here. Okay, so that's your pretensioner is located in here, and what you've got is a little gas canister here, and that's normally set off for the electrical signal to come in, and then you've got a gas charge. And what happens is you've got a little pinion here on the side of your retractor, little pinion wheel, just like our starter pinion, and there's a big ratchet with teeth on it, comes down here. When that goes off, it goes boof, and that actually goes up and turns the pinion and pulls the belt in. Right, so it just yanks it back in. So this is why it's important when you get a Warrant Fitness, they will always check your seat belts, because if there's any stitching issues or splits or anything in your belt, that system's not going to work, because the force of that will just rip the belt, and then you're wasting time having it. Alright, so that's how a pretensioner works. Recognising faults with these systems, you need to go through your OBD2 system. That's your little plug under your dash. You put your scanner on there, and you check for your trouble codes or your fault codes, and hopefully that'll tell you what's going on. Like I said earlier, some earlier ones, that little light on the dash, the airbag light, will blink and it'll blink a code. That's kind of an old system, and you won't see that very often anymore. It's more of a mechanical airbag system. Pretty much everything you're going to be looking at will be done with a scan tool. Quite often have squib failures in the steering wheel. That's one of the common faults. Also with the BMWs, that pad under the seat from the passenger seat, if anyone kneels on it or they put something sharp on it, it destroys that sensor as well. That's a common fault with the earlier BMWs. Things like that. The pretensioners can be faulty. Those pretensioner seat belts, once they go off, obviously you've got to throw them away and buy a new one. So you've got one gas charge in it. Same with your airbag. If that goes off, you're buying a new airbag, you're buying a new steering wheel or a new dashboard if it's a passenger one that's going off. So it's an expensive thousands of dollars when airbags go off. So it's worth keeping them in good nick and not having accidents.